Hello friends, welcome to a lecture on environmental education. The main objectives of our today's deliberation are to understand the areas of environmental education. We will try to highlight the need of environmental education. We shall also try to know the history and the concept of environmental education. And finally, we will try to understand the importance of environmental education. Let me first of all give you a brief introduction about the concept of environmental education. Environment is the sum total of all external forces, influences and conditions which affect the life, nature, behavior, growth, development and maturation of living organisms. The science of environmental studies is the multidisciplinary science because it comprises various branches of studies like chemistry, physics, medical science, life science, agriculture, public health, sanitary engineering, etc. It is a science of physical phenomena in the environment. It studies the sources, reactions, transport, effect and fate of physical and biological species in the air, water and soil, and the effect of human activity upon these. Environmental education refers to organized efforts to teach about how natural environment functions and particularly how human beings can manage their behavior and ecosystem in order to live sustainably. The term is often used to imply education within the school system from primary to post-secondary. However, it is sometimes used more broadly to include all efforts to educate the public and other audiences through print materials, websites, media campaigns, etc. Environmental education is the teaching of individuals and communities in transitioning to society that is knowledgeable of the environment and its associated problems, aware of the solutions to these problems and motivated to solve them. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO states that environmental education is vital in imparting an inherent respect for nature among society and enhancing public environmental awareness. UNESCO emphasizes the role of environmental education in safeguarding future global developments of the societal quality of life through the protection of environment, eradication of poverty, minimization of inequalities and assurance of sustainable developments. It can be concluded that environment comprises various types of forces such as physical, intellectual, economic, political, cultural, social, moral and emotional. Now, let us discuss some of the important definitions of environment. As per Edwin G. Boring, American psychologist, a person's environment consists of the sum total of stimulation which he receives from his conception until his death. As per Douglas and Holland, American educational psychologists, the term environment is used to describe in the aggregate all the external forces, influences and conditions which affect the life, nature, behavior and growth, development and maturity of living organisms. Dear students, let us discuss elements of environment. Environment is constituted by the interacting system of physical, biological and cultural elements interrelated in various ways individually as well as collectively. These elements can be explained. Number 1, physical elements. Physical elements are space, landforms, water bodies, climate, soil, rocks and minerals. They determine the variable character of the human habitat, its opportunities as well as limitations. Number 2, biological elements. Biological elements such as plants, animals, microorganisms and man constitute the biosphere. And number third, cultural elements. Cultural elements such as economic, social and political elements are essentially man-made features which make cultural setting. Now, let us talk about the various segments of environment. The environment consists of 4 segments. Number 1, atmosphere. The atmosphere implies the protective blanket of gases surrounding the earth. The various functions of atmosphere are: it sustains life on the earth, it saves us from the hostile environment of outer space, it absorbs most of the cosmic rays from outer space and a major portion of the electromagnetic radiations from the sun. The atmosphere is composed of nitrogen and oxygen, besides argon, carbon dioxide and trace gases. Number 2, hydrosphere. The hydrosphere comprises all types of water resources: oceans, seas, lakes, rivers, streams, reservoirs, polar ice caps, glaciers and groundwater. And number 3, lithosphere. Lithosphere is the outer mantle of the solid earth. It consists of minerals occurring in the earth's crust and the soil. For example, minerals, organic matter, air and water. And 4th, biosphere. Biosphere indicates the realm of living organisms and their interaction with environment, namely atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere. Now, let us have a glimpse about the focus of environmental education. Firstly, environmental education focuses on engaging in protection of environment for all demographics. Secondly, focuses to think critically, ethically and creatively when evaluating environmental issues. Thirdly, focuses in making educated judgments about the environmental issues. Fourthly, focuses in developing skills and a commitment to act independently and collectively to sustain and enhance the environment. And finally, focuses in enhancing the appreciation of the environment, resulting in the positive environmental change. Now, let us trace the history of environmental education. The roots of environmental education can be traced back as early as the 18th century, when Rousseau stressed the importance of education that focuses on environmental education. Several decades later, Louis Agassiz, a Swiss naturalist, echoed Rousseau's philosophy as he encouraged students to study nature, not books. These two influential scholars helped to lay the foundation for a concrete environmental education program known as nature study, which took place in late 19th century and early 20th century. A new type of environmental education, conservation education, emerged as a result of the Great Depression and Dust Bowl during the 1920s and 1930s. The modern environmental education movement, which gained significant momentum in the late 1960s and early 1970s, stems from the nature study and conservation education. During this period, many events such as civil rights, the Vietnam War and the Cold War placed Americans at odds with one another and US government. However, as more people began to fear the fallout from radiations, the chemical pesticides mentioned in Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, and the significant amount of air pollution and waste, the public concern for their health and the health of their natural environment led to a unifying phenomena known as environmentalism. Internationally, environmental education gained recognition when the UN Conference on the Human Environment held in Stockholm, Sweden in 1972 declared environmental education must be used as tool to address global environmental problems. The United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization (UNESCO) and United Nations Environment Programme (UNEP) created three major declarations that have guided the course of environmental education. These are: number 1, Stockholm Declaration, June 5 to 16, 1972, the Declaration of the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment. The document was made up of 7 proclamations and 26 principles to inspire and guide the people of the world in the preservation and enhancement of the human environment. Number 2, Belgrade Charter, October 13 to 22, 1975. The Belgrade Charter was the outcome of the international workshop on environmental education held in Belgrade, Yugoslavia, now Serbia. The Belgrade Charter was built upon the goals, objectives and the guiding principles of environmental education. And number 3, Bill C Declaration, October 14 to 26, 1977. The Bill C Declaration noted the unanimous accord in the important role of environmental education in the preservation and the improvement of the world's environment, as well as in the sound and balanced development of the world communities. The Bill C Declaration updated and clarified the Stockholm Declaration and the Belgrade Charter by including new goals, objectives, characteristics and guiding principles of environmental education. Now, let us acquaint ourselves about the objectives of environmental education. The objectives of environmental education are broad in sense of nature. The systematic knowledge about the care should be taken in explanation and utilization of natural resources. For the development and progress of mankind is given through environmental education. The objectives and the guiding principles for developing environmental education are: number 1, awareness, to help social groups and individuals to acquire awareness and sensitivity to the total environmental and its allied problems. Number 2, knowledge, to help social groups and individuals to gain a variety of experiences in and acquire a basic understanding of the environment and its associated problems. Number 3, attitudes, to help social groups and individuals acquire a set of values and feelings of concern for the environment and motivation for actively participation in environmental improvement. Number 4, skill, to help social groups and individuals to acquire skills for identifying and solving environmental problems. Number 5, evaluation ability, to help individual and social groups to evaluate environmental measures and education programs in terms of ecological, economic, social, aesthetic and educational factors. And last, participation, to provide social groups and individuals with the opportunities to be actively involved at all levels in the working towards the resolution of environmental problems. To sum, overall goals of environmental education can be expressed in another form as UNESCO 1977 states: to foster clear awareness and concern about the economic, social, political and ecological interdependence in urban and rural areas, to create new patterns of behaviors of individuals, groups and society as a whole towards the environment, to provide every person with opportunities to acquire the knowledge, values, attitudes, commitment and the skills needed to protect and improve the environment, to develop the sense of awareness among the students about environment and its various problems, to help the students in realizing the interrelationship between man and environment, to help the students in acquiring basic knowledge about environment, to inform the students about the social norms that provide unity with environmental characteristics, to create positive attitude about environment among students, to develop proper skill required for the fulfillment of the aims of environmental education and educational evaluation, to develop proper skills among the students for the solution of the environmental problems, to develop the sense of responsibility for the environment among the students, to help the students in realizing the importance of taking proper steps to solve environmental problems, to develop required curiosity among the students for the realization of environment problems so that they would be inspired to work for the solution of such problems, to create appropriate situations for the students to participate in the process of decision making about environment, to develop the capability of using skills to fulfill the required aims, to realize and solve environmental problems through social, political, cultural and educational processes. Dear students, let us discuss the importance of environmental education. The environmental education enlightens us about the importance of protection and conservation of our indiscriminate release of pollution into the environment. The primary aim of environmental education is to impart knowledge about the principles required for the conservation and utilization of natural resources for the existence of mankind. Environmental education gives required knowledge and experience, realizing the value of such important views. The role of environmental education is important in the realization of the necessity of maintaining a friendly and well-balanced relationship between man and nature. At present, a great number of environmental issues have grown in size and complexity, threatening the survival of mankind on earth. We need to study about these issues and need effective suggestions in the environmental studies. That's all about today's lecture. Hope you have enjoyed and understood. Thank you and goodbye.